being nice did not get me into the biggest women's match of all time at WrestleMania. No, it certainly wasn't the reason that I was the first woman drafted to SmackDown Live, and it sure as hell is not the reason that I am the women's champion. No. Being nice didn't get me any of those things. I got those things because I am relentless. I am SmackDown Live's version of the Honey Badger.
It is Review a SmackDown, Review a 205 Live, Review a Talking Smack. I am John Pollock, along with Wai Ting.
That's right.
A color coordinated, all maroon.
Oh shit, you're right. That wasn't even intentional.
Is this a direction in the maroon way for you? You've got a sweater and a hat.
You know what?
That doesn't happen by accident.
I do like it.
It suits you.
I do like this color for fall.
Yeah,
they're fall colors.
The black, I think, is a nice fallback on it. Very nice.
All right, man.
I'm just complimenting you, for Christ's sake. I could say you look like shit. That wouldn't have been really nice. I'm saying the opposite.
Why not? Then why not say nothing?
Because I'd choose to say something nice rather than nothing.
All right.
Compliment goes a long way.
Oh, fuck you.
Wow. I'm done. Is it okay if I thank you for saving our show Monday night?
No, I did not save it.
Yeah, you did, because if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have put that show up Monday night. I was in a coma. I was so tired by the end of that show because I had hardly slept the night prior. And then Review of Raw, we don't finish this thing till 1:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. Get the files from you, go home, realize I've got the wrong files. It's now 2 o'clock in the morning. From my sources, they indicated that your reaction when I informed you of this was, fuck. Just fuck. And then you stayed even later because I was like, dude, I can't. I gotta go to sleep.
No.
You came in
yeah,
big.
it was no problem. Yeah, you looked very tired, and I had no issue doing the show because I had to stay to finish the video anyway. So people who kind of want a bit of a glimpse into our behind-the-scenes process for Review of Raw.
It's a mess.
We record the shows, and then John will go back home. He lives close by. He'll do the audio version, and I'll work with the team to just put that video version up. And so I feel like the video takes usually a little bit longer just because it's, a bit more involved. But I had to wait for all these renders anyway, so I was happy to take that off your plate.
Well, thank you.
I mean, I abandoned you for a month, so this is the least I could do.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. I feel... Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I deserve it.
So, Wai, how was Tuesday night for you, watching all this stuff? Because by the end of it...
Jesus Christ.
I don't think I could do this every week. This is a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if I could either. Or we should just lay it out right now. I don't know how long we're going to continue reviewing all this, but I know you said that they were planning on keeping everything under 3 hours. That did not happen.
Stupid me.
I
went by the schedule.
This whole thing lasted 3.5 hours.
Okay? With the last, pretty much Talking Smack and 205 Live was about close to 90 minutes commercial free.
Yeah. Which is the length of SmackDown. Basically.
Yeah,
longer,
you're right. We're almost watching SmackDown again when you figure in commercials.
So for months now, we've been doing this Review of SmackDown show, and for the most part, I've consistently enjoyed it. I've definitely not felt that kind of depression that I often
SmackDown goes
get.
by very quick.
Yeah.
And that's because of the proximity to Raw, I believe, plays to that. And Talking Smack to me never felt like, oh, this is on top of it. It was a nice little bonus. It was like ice cream at the end of a satisfying meal.
Absolutely. Yes, that's a great way to put it. But, especially when you're watching SmackDown on PVR, it flips, you get through that thing in, probably an hour if you really wanted to. And so I never kind of really felt it. But, boy, did I feel it today. Last night, I mean, and that's not, man, first of all, the show itself was just not that great, in my opinion.
SmackDown or 205 Live?
SmackDown and Talking Smack were both not that great.
Well, you know what? Up until, I would say, 3/4 into that title match, 205 Live didn't do much for me.
No, me neither. Anyway, let's
we're
just
going to
get into
all that could be our review, but that would be a bigger waste of our time. So we start off, we're in Columbia, South Carolina for our marathon night. And it kicked off with Renee Young in the ring. for a contract signing between Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss and brings both out. And this would play itself out later on Talking Smack where, for whatever reason, and I haven't found out why, Bryan Danielson was not at the show on Tuesday night. So I imagine it was Renee here filling that gap, and then later a co-host for Talking Smack.
So I guess Shane wasn't around either.
I guess not.
He had no presence.
Yeah, so Renee was out here, and Bliss comes out, followed by Becky, and Bliss kicks Renee out, stating, "We'll ask you if we need advice on things like bad fashion." And then Becky immediately calls her Harley Quinn when she's the one casting shade on Renee's fashion sense.
How's that an insult? I would say that's a compliment.
Well, Bliss calls it dumb Irish luck that Becky was able to keep the title in Scotland, and Becky comes back saying that she reminds her of her cousin, who likes glitter, cries, and moans. But her cousin is 4 years old. What's Bliss's excuse? And Bliss informs the crowd not to react to that. And Becky says that she had the choice to either use her foot to get out of the last match or lose her arm, and she's not going to get that option at TLC. Signs the contract, and Becky says that being nice didn't get her into the biggest women's match at WrestleMania or being the top women's draft choice. She is SmackDown's version of the Honey Badger, which is definitely something Becky is going all in with because it was repeated numerous times by Becky herself.
This was her Brahma Bull, the Honey Badger. Her rattlesnake.
What was Vader? The Kodiak Bear.
The Honey Badger.
The Honey Badger.
What? Can you Google? I don't even know what a honey badger looks like.
I'm sure it's frightening, but it doesn't sound menacing.
No, it does not sound frightening at all.
I'm saying it probably is, even though it doesn't sound like one. Okay, let's watch this. The crazy, nasty-ass honey badger video.
Oh, we don't have to watch a video.
We're not going
to. Okay, it looks like a skunk.
No, it's not. It looks like a skunk, an overgrown skunk.
All right, so
okay, so it's not that menacing at all. I would not want to be attacked by one of these little fuckers.
I just don't.
I don't see the connection.
I don't understand why, of all the animals in the animal kingdom, for you to tag yourself as the honey badger.
Honey badger, and says
shit.
Alexa has only accomplished the ability to have multicolored lips, sound bites on Talking Smack, and has a victim's mentality, and calls her Puss in Boots as she starts coughing, and Bliss says, well, you make me sick. And she's better than Becky and will pour ice water on her straight fire and become champion as she signs the contract. And then on top of this, Becky calls her Lexi, and Alexa says that while you were growing up on your potato farm, you must not have learned how to speak because her name is Alexa. And they fight. The crowd got hot for the physicality, and Becky set up a table in the corner, went for the Bexplex off the turnbuckle, but instead Alexa knocked her off. Becky went through the table to conclude our segment.
I thought it was a rather tepid contract signing with some... I don't know. I don't know about this trash talk that was designed for these girls to speak.
I like Alexa.
Yeah,
I think that she has a good personality, but I just felt there were so many very rehearsed lines in this, and this was the opposite of what I praised on Raw for the Mick Foley-Sami Zayn interaction, where it just felt like a natural argument between two people, and this was, well, this is my insult. Okay, I'm going to top your insult, and then I've got this. It was just...
It comes down to how naturally you can make something sound, right? And, I mean...
Maybe I've never been in a creative argument.
You never told somebody, I'm going to pour ice water on your straight fire in the middle of a argument? I mean, yeah. Like, but I get why they probably have girls like, like Alexa... rely more on a script just because she hasn't had enough of as much experience as a Sami Zayn or a Mick Foley. That said, I do think she comes across as the more natural and more engaging personality.
I agree.
Becky, I think she's awful as a babyface promo. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think partially it's because she comes in with a bit too much energy, a little too excited. And it's not really focused energy, so she just kind of like, and she just said she's saying the dumbest things, her catchphrases are just fucking awful. But maybe 12-year-old girls might really like it. So I don't know. Like, I saw some hashtags scroll across the bottom of the screen.
Honey Badger.
Honey Badger, hashtag Becky Balboa. So maybe she really resonates with 12-year-olds. But for a 32-year-old man, it is a little cringeworthy to watch.
Our first match was The Miz and Baron Corbin against Dolph Ziggler and Kalisto. And they went through the commercial right away. Corbin was in control with Ziggler in there. Then Corbin knocked Kalisto off the apron, and Miz brought a ladder out with Ziggler on the floor. Ziggler hit a jumping DDT on the floor and then caught Corbin with a super kick. Ziggler dove and then tagged Kalisto after beating the count back in. Kalisto hit a tornillo dive off the middle rope to Miz. Wrecking ball drop kick by Miz. And then Kalisto hit a tope suicida to Corbin on the floor. Ziggler from the floor landed a super kick to Miz as Maurice tipped the ladder onto Ziggler. And this killed him.
Did they explain why the ladder was there?
Miz brought it out from underneath.
Oh, he just brought it out.
And we had a whole TLC set as well.
Right.
For this SmackDown. And apparently this was the lone ladder left underneath the ring for whatever purposes. Mm-hmm. And then Kalisto went for the Salida del Sol to Miz, but then Corbin attacked Kalisto with a chair for the DQ because they're going to have a chairs match. It's amazing how we had the proper association of weapons for each guy. Like Corbin, who's in the chairs match, he's the chair, and Miz is in the ladder match, brought out the ladder. It's like they're
It's too hokey, way too hokey. It's like they're what?
I was going to say it's like they have a magnetism to this weapon throughout this pay-per-view cycle.
Right, yes.
They can only use this weapon.
It's really too... I mean, anytime they have a TLC or coming up, or what is it? What was the all gimmicks show? Like, didn't they? Extreme Rules?
Sure.
Anytime they do one of these, it's all too convenient. So I just wish that they would have some more logical explanation from like a Bryan or Shane. Perhaps they would tell everybody, okay, guys, we have a pay-per-view to promote. We'll look the other way. We won't fine you if you're going to use either a table, a ladder, or a chair. Okay,
or stairs. So no stairs match.
No stairs this year. But I would like some storyline explanation about why, just to make it a bit more believable. Because right now it just seems even more corny than it usually is.
American Alpha are backstage, and they are interviewed by Dasha. And they state they are prepared tonight for their match with Orton and Bray. States they won the Tag Turmoil match last week. And says they can play the Wyatt's games too because they can levitate people with their suplexes. And once Chad Gable gets going, their lights will go out. And says they should take their own advice tonight and run. This was a bad promo.
It was bad. Yeah, it was bad. And you know what? Like if they did this in NXT, I think it'd be fine. Like for an NXT promo, I think it'd be okay. But when you're on the main roster and you're working a program with Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, two very capable promo guys,
this wasn't even witty, which was the design. This wasn't even clever.
I mean, do you blame the writers for this, or do you blame the delivery?
In this case, the material was god-awful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these guys have had good promos together as baby faces. This just to me was just bad material playing off the Wyatts, and it was just
they try so much to be cute with the catchphrases and things like that, and I think so often it's just normal speaking that drives the most passion and the most fear.
Then we cut right to the Wyatts with a promo, and Bray calls them delusional, and Orton says he used to be like American Alpha, naive and close-minded. But now he feels like he truly belongs, no one can break this bond, and then he asks Luke Harper if he will do what needs to be done against Kane, as Bray tells him to send Kane back to hell. And throughout the show, you got the sense that Randy Orton and Luke Harper are kind of playing to be the right-hand man of Bray Wyatt, and they're teasing like an issue between Harper and Orton, I got.
Okay. I don't think it's hard to compare Randy Orton to Luke Harper when one is so high up above the ladder and the other is just...
Bray's got to look, man, this gimmick is finally clicking for me with this guy here, with Randy.
Yeah.
I think Orton has actually helped this group.
Oh, no, without a doubt. Absolutely.
Carmella comes out, and she has a message for John Cena. as the crowd then starts chanting, "How you doing?" at her, and apologizes for what she will be doing, apologizes to Cena for what she's going to do to Nikki. She states she's going to pick up a chair and hit Nikki so hard in the chest that her Bella twins will be popping out of her back. Think about that.
Yeah, I know. Her breast implants will be flipped through her
She would have reverse
spine.
boobs.
Yeah. Wow.
And said she is going to rearrange her face so badly that she's going to do Cena a favor because she won't want to have a wedding. And that E will have to cancel season 2 of Total Bellas. I like this promo from Carmella.
I thought Carmella was great here. And I guess it's kind of funny, like, coming off of my criticism of that American Alpha promo, because I guess there were a little... I guess the writing could have been... I like the writing in this one. You know, especially referencing a lot of the the main crux of the problems between John Cena and Nikki Bella, as displayed on Total Divas at least, is the fact that John Cena is very reluctant to get married, something that was a life goal of Nikki Bella's at one time. So I'm glad that she brought this up and used it as material in a promo. I thought it was cool. I thought she had great confidence, Carmella, and it's even like crowd chanting "How you doing?" She had a really good comeback for that. She feels very comfortable on the microphone.
Have you gotten back into Total Divas since
we
started?
I mean, I've got it set, recorded on my PVR. I haven't even finished Total Bellas.
It plummeted from week 1 to week 2. It started, I was looking at this earlier, 724,000 viewers for week 1, and then it dropped to 461 in week 2.
You know what they should do?
36%.
You know what they should do? They should pair up with another struggling franchise in The Ultimate Fighter. And combine the two.
Ultimate Divas.
Ultimate Divas. Total Fighters. No.
Total Fighters.
Ultimate Divas. I like that. Ultimate Divas, and then you can have the girls living in a house together. They could train under, I don't know, maybe one of the, like, who would you train the divas with? I would get maybe like let me think. Maybe
You mean like a fighter to coach them?
Yeah. Maybe I would get who would be great? Cain Velasquez and Rory McDonald.
Oh, Rory would be great.
Yeah, I get Rory. Oh, you know, I get Rory and Sage. Just bring them back. Bring Rory back.
The TriStar unit.
Yeah, get them to coach the divas, and then they could fight at the end of every episode. Wouldn't that be awesome? Guarantee ratings would be great.
Guys, we got a big match coming up, and my advice is just go out there and don't Rory, be happy.
Nikki, I know John doesn't want to marry you, but sometimes you should let the man follow his dreams.
With Vanguard. So Nikki runs down and attacks Carmella. The officials are trying to separate them. Carmella slaps her. Nikki knees her in the face, and Carmella escapes to the floor. So they will have their no disqualifications match this coming Sunday at TLC. Video package on Ellsworth beating Styles last week in the ladder match, and then we got the Ambrose Asylum with Dean bringing out Ellsworth, and this got an Ellsworth chant from the crowd. Ambrose makes fun of how old Ellsworth's boots are. Ellsworth never imagined this was possible 6 months ago, and Ambrose says he must have good karma from a past life, but says that he doesn't owe Dean anything. And Ellsworth notes it would be an honor to wrestle Ambrose for the title when he's asked who he's got this Sunday in the TLC match, but notes he has 3 wins over AJ and he just might have his number. So Styles comes out, laughs at the idea of this segment being quality entertainment, stands on the announce desk, compares Ellsworth to a ventriloquist dummy, but that a dummy has a chin. And Ambrose notes that, well, you lost to a dummy 3 times. And Styles is sick of Ambrose making him a joke. He's going to beat respect out of Ambrose at TLC and dares Ellsworth to show up on Sunday. As Ambrose states that Styles has never been more rattled, calls Ellsworth a mutant, and the fun and games end this Sunday as Styles charges at them, and Styles sends Ambrose into the steps, drops them on top of Ambrose, and then beats down on Ellsworth, dropping a ladder on him. He's hanging upside down from the ring, just looking ridiculous as he's holding himself up with his hands from the floor. And Styles hits him in the back with a chair. See, he incorporated all weapons there for the TLC match.
Yeah, James Ellsworth was stuck because he didn't know how to...
He was supporting himself.
He didn't know how to unflex his feet, basically.
On the bottom ropes.
It's why he was stuck.
So he took the chair, and then, as I just held my breath, he took a Styles Clash off the steps to the floor.
Yeah.
I was so worried his face was going to get crushed on the edge of the steps.
Oh, that's what the angle looked like.
Yeah, you were facing like the way the move was coming at you at the screen. And I was just watching it because, my God, if his face had caught the steps, his face would have been wrecked.
Or what if the guy forgot to tuck?
Oh, God, after that last one.
Or did tuck. Yeah.
So, I mean, this appeared to be okay.
Oh, yeah.
This looked vicious.
Yeah, it looked incredible. And so...
And they did the right thing. Stretcher job. Yep. He was dead from this, and Ambrose left with him in the ambulance.
I'm glad they saved the spot. I mean, I would assume that it's something that maybe AJ or whoever has kind of thought of.
They should keep
doing.
Ellsworth out till
yeah.
next year. Like, that match with AJ shouldn't happen until January.
I don't think he'll be out till next year. I see him coming back.
I think he'll be on the show, just not... He shouldn't wrestle for a few weeks at least.
Probably not.
Like, he should really sell this as debilitating.
Honestly, I don't even know if he should be at TLC.
He shouldn't.
No,
he shouldn't do anything physical.
Make an appearance. So, but that spot looked great, and I thought AJ was great here. You know,
I think this was a segment AJ certainly needed.
Oh, 100%.
Because this build-up for this TLC match, it's largely been comedy, and they tried to get away from that tonight.
It's all been Dean and James Ellsworth making fun, clowning AJ. So, leading up to the pay-per-view, AJ getting his comeuppance or Dean getting his comeuppance was good.
Kane and Luke Harper were next, the Jerry Lawler match of the year. And
what?
This was the match Jerry Lawler said. This was on the kickoff show at Survivor Series, and right after their match, Jerry Lawler said, "I love that match."
That was his match of the year?
I guess so. He said he loved it, so
Okay.
I don't know what else.
All right.
This was the best match that Kay Jewelers could sponsor, which was the presenting sponsor of this match, Kane and Luke Harper. It was a stalemate at the start, and then Kane dropped him with a shot, and Harper bailed to the floor and snapped Kane's neck on the top rope. And then Harper got the advantage as they came back from a commercial. JBL says, if you're looking for a Mac classic, you're watching the wrong match. These are two big guys beating each other up. Kane came off the ropes, hit a jumping clothesline. The crowd was very dead for this. And then they got into near falls. Kane powerbombed him out of the corner. He kicked out. Harper hit a spinning sidewalk slam for a 2. Then Kane missed with a top rope clothesline and took a super kick for a 2 count. Kane stopped Harper on the turnbuckle and hit a superplex. He rises up, blocks the strikes, and then finishes off Harper with a choke slam for the victory. They were going out there to have like a good match. The crowd just really wasn't into this.
It was tough for me to find interest in it either. The stakes involved just didn't seem like there were any.
What are you talking about? Kane could have gone to hell here.
Was that what was?
That was the orders of the Wyatt family to send him to hell. He avoided going to hell. That's the ultimate stake.
I thought he was from hell.
He wants to send him back. They clarified. Send him back to hell.
When did he come back?
The last time he emerged from underneath the ring. That's hell.
I thought
the crowd is the WWE universe.
I thought he had a permanent residency in hell that he could go
dual
back.
citizenship.
Right, so he can go.
He's
back
got to have at least somewhat citizenship because he can run for office in Knoxville, in Tennessee.
Some people might think of that as hell too.
Yikes!
I've never been to Knoxville.
Wait,
I'm kidding. I hear
throwing
it's
some
great.
hard knocks in the Ville.
Okay. What do you think you are, a SmackDown promo writer?
I could be, I could be. And it wouldn't get anybody over with my fleeting wit. Renee interviews Becky, who's icing her back. She has a spine bruise. A spine bruise.
Sounds plausible. Yeah. Spine bruise.
Mick Foley wouldn't let her wrestle on Sunday. We learned that on Monday.
A spine bruise?
Well, I'm saying Sami Zayn didn't have a spine bruise, and he was held back from facing Braun again. So Becky is icing her back. She's going to defend her title no matter what at TLC because she's a honey badger, you see. And she is informed through Renee that Alexa has challenged her now to a tables match, which is not how contract signings work, where you sign it and then you make an alteration to the contract after it's been signed.
Right.
Shouldn't the stip have predated the signing of the contract?
Yeah, you would think so.
Wow.
But you see they make matches on the fly, so I guess anything goes.
She agrees and says that she is going to get revenge on that little bitch.
Yeah, she said little bitch. And I sometimes I go to Reddit and I go to Squared Circle. and then somebody posted this clip just because I guess she said bitch, and so it like I thought Becky was fine here. Becky, of the two promos, this was by far the better one. But I guess because she said bitch, like this got people talking, and somebody in the comments posted the Diva segment from 2004.
Oh, that's a horrendous segment to look back on.
Which I don't think I had ever seen.
Oh,
and so
it's amazing it aired.
So I watched it, and I couldn't believe it. My jaw dropped watching this the Diva segment from 2004 with
Carmella,
the old Carmella, Christy Hemme.
Maria was in it, wasn't she?
She was, yes, and with Joy and Amy Weber, and boy, to go from that to little bitch being sort of like a risque thing. God, man, you watch that segment, the things they say, I will not even repeat on a podcast that is already labeled explicit. I won't even say it.
Do you know how Jack Swagger would have delivered this line? That little bliss. With his lisp. One that sounded good. Didn't come out so well. I'm going to edit this out. Whatever happened to Jack Swagger? Remember he was a big signing on SmackDown?
Yeah, you're right.
What happened? He was there for 2 weeks and he disappeared. He's worse off, I think, on SmackDown than he was on Raw.
Oh, clearly, yeah.
Oh, the midnight expiry of his contract.
He made such an impact that we didn't realize he was gone until a month
He probably
later.
hasn't been on TV in 2 months.
Yeah. That's a very good question.
Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt took on American Alpha in our main event. Only 3 matches on this show. It's not so much that the matches didn't get time, but having only 3 matches, do you think that was strategic, knowing that there was still more to come and not burn people out with too many matches on SmackDown proper?
Perhaps so, but I feel like it was a normal amount of wrestling on SmackDown.
The length of the match time was probably similar. Like, this was a 15-plus minute main event. So.
Yeah. Like, typically, how many matches do we get on a SmackDown?
More than 3.
Right.
You usually have your
It didn't feel any different to me. In fact, like, there were times where I was kind of dreading some of these because of how much more wrestling I knew I still had to watch.
Slater and Rhino are watching backstage for this tag match. The winners will face the tag champions on Sunday. Jordan started with a gut-wrench suplex to Bray, and then they hit a double drop kick, sending Bray to the floor as he got very angry by the announce desk. The advantage then was on Jordan as Orton is tagged in. Then a blind tag by Gable as he hit a high cross to Orton, caught Orton's arm into an armbar in the ropes, studying his Minoru Suzuki. Then Bray knocked Gable off the turnbuckle to the floor. They go through a break. Bray hit a big avalanche splash to Gable. They had the heat on him for a long time. Gable got crotched by Orton on the top, followed with a huge superplex. And then he was able to make the hot tag to Jason Jordan, who comes in, fires up on Bray, hit an overhead suplex, a Saito suplex. Gable then leaped off the apron with a cannonball to Orton on the floor. Jordan blocked a Uranagi, hitting a German, and then the lights go out, and Luke Harper appears at ringside, distracting Jason Jordan, who turns around. Bray goes for the Sister Abigail, but Gable stops it with a drop kick, and then they set up for the Grand Amplitude, but Orton returns, hitting an RKO to Gable, so they can't complete the move, and then Harper pulls Bray out of the corner, though it did not look...
I don't think the camera really caught it, or maybe they just...
It looked awkward. Like
Yeah.
it seemed like the announcers covered for it,
Yeah.
because you would not have gotten that had the announcers not really hammered that point. But the idea was Harper saved Bray as Jordan ran into the corner shoulder first, missing him, and then took Sister Abigail after he rebounded out of the corner, and Bray pinned Jordan. 15-26, the Wyatt family posed in the ring as Orton did his usual pose, with JBL calling it the Ultimate Mannequin Challenge. Randy's pose.
Oh, that's a nice way to close off your main event segment.
And the final bit was in the back, where Dasha interviewed Rhino and Heath and asked how they will prepare. Says they basically said, well, we need to prepare for them. And then AJ walked in, stated no one cares about the tag titles, tells Heath to shut up, and then Ambrose returned from the hospital and attacked AJ. They had this wild brawl in this room backstage. They flew over tables. AJ just got thrown around, and It ended with Heath and Rhino cheering on Dean.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah, I really liked SmackDown last week. I thought this week was really uninspired. Just even down to the cliches of just having very, I don't know, it's the contract signings and then just a backstage beatdown to close the show. And I feel like they did really well last week in establishing, everything for TLC, but I think the follow-up this week was almost completely unnecessary. This week you really didn't even have to watch.
Well, that was your 2-week build to TLC on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And then we go into 205 Live, which was taped right after. Reports were there were a bunch of people leaving the arena.
Well, you could tell from the way they darkened the arena.
Yep.
Right? So they did do this live.
They did do it live. Mm-hmm. And the opening was, they did an opening video, and it was like 98% highlights from the CWC.
Oh, yeah.
And like 2 shots of Raw.
Yeah.
And the tag, Don't Blink.
Right. Yeah, and I suppose expectations going into it, I mean, and even from the trailers, you could see like the production, or at least the graphical elements, were very much reminiscent of the CWC. And they kind of used a lot of the same, except the big difference was that this was taking place at the end of SmackDown instead of at Full Sail.
Yeah, and I thought the show really suffered from the crowd up until like the last couple of minutes of the title match.
Yeah.
The announce team, Mauro, Ranallo, Corey Graves, and Austin Aries, who joined them.
I'm surprised.
Because they can't have a 2-man team, except for NXT, I guess.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to see Aries because I'm a big fan of his, and I know he seems to have the personality and I think the charisma to be able to pull off a heel commentator. But seeing it in action, I don't know.
This was not a home run.
No.
I would like to... I think for commentary teams, I think it's only fair that you give them time to evolve.
Yep.
Look at what we saw, just the transformations of Daniel Bryan within that CWC. He started off a lot more...
Bryan was great.
Seasoned.
Though.
Austin Aries, to me, he's in that... First of all, I find him and Corey Graves to be playing very similar roles. There isn't a contrast to those two.
There is, though. Aries is straight heel.
Yeah, and that puts Corey Graves, like that would be...
You're right.
It's almost his role, and he had to play almost like in the middle, where he does sympathize with the heels, but he also had to defend baby faces to counter Aries.
Yeah.
And Aries was also... You see this a lot where a heel is in more promo mode, getting himself across, emphasizing himself, and that doesn't lend itself for a 1-hour show.
At all.
That's great for a guest commentary spot for a match.
Yeah. The bigger problem is that they've established with the cruiserweights, or at least like, I think the desire of anybody who was a fan of the CWC who's watching this was that they were going to treat the cruiserweights with a more serious, athletic, sporting approach like they took the CWC. But to have an Austin Aries play a straight-up sports entertainment heel calling all these matches took away from that kind of realistic presentation that they developed. And like you said, I found at times he was just basically insulting everybody, kind of getting himself over. And on a Raw or SmackDown, I think he might be good for that. But on this show, it didn't seem like a fit.
I think this should have been go with one or the other. Like, I think Aries could be very good, but it would be significantly an easier transition if it was just him and Mauro, or just Mauro and Corey.
I prefer Mauro and Corey for this type of show.
Well, sure, Corey is much more seasoned than Aries is,
but even on like for a show like this, you want somebody to just more talk more about the athleticism and the technique. Like I mean, Bryan was really missed, watching these matches. So for somebody who can kind of bring that passion and bring that technical expertise to really get you into the matches, was, I think, something that was needed in Aries.
I think at most, though, we're looking at this is simply temporary while Aries is hurt. And what I did like about this was him constantly stating he's going to go for the cruiserweight title. And if he's inserted in this division, that's a major plus.
It's a great plus for the division. It does, however, tell you that Aries probably won't be world heavyweight champion anytime soon.
I really don't think that was ever in the cards. Right. Just the idea he'd be on the main roster and they have a star in the cruiserweight division, a star heel. Yep. This division sorely needs that.
Yeah.
So they had all the cruiserweights out for this roll call at the start of the show. All we needed was the Pride music here.
Oh, yes.
We had Rich Swann, TJ Perkins, Jack Gallagher, Ho Ho Lun.
Mm-hmm.
He's back.
He made it.
The Bollywood Boys, Noam Dar, Tony Nese, Drew Gulak, Arya Davari, Cedric Alexander, who got a big pop because he's from Charlotte.
Oh, right.
Fresh off his loss.
He's from Charlotte, but where were they?
Well, this was South Carolina, but I guess they still got a reaction.
I assume like he's getting himself over, don't you think? Like maybe it's
it's not the company.
It's Alicia Fox. That's what it is.
That might have been it.
Yeah.
Lindsay Dorado, Akira Tozawa, Mustafa Ali, Grand Metalik, and Brian Kendrick.
Was Tajiri not supposed to be a part of this?
I don't think he actually
I thought he was
signed.
He actually didn't sign.
I guess not. Like they would have if they. I think this was everybody that you're going to expect on the show. That's at least as of now. We went into our first feature on the Bollywood Boys, Harv and Gurv, and they showed their influences of Bret Hart and Chris Jericho with photos they took with them.
Don't forget Eddie Guerrero.
Eddie Guerrero, of course, who is just the godfather, the influential godfather for every cruiserweight female. Yeah. Everyone was influenced by Eddie Guerrero.
Yes.
And then they showed their 95-year-old grandfather who was blind, and they explained how it was such a big moment when they debuted in the CWC. He couldn't see their debut, but he could hear it. And they stated how they grew up watching hockey, WWE, and Bollywood. I thought this was the most effective feature on this show. Dude. And I thought they suffered from too many features on this show.
Perhaps. They had a lot of new faces, though, that they needed to get airtime for.
But I don't think you needed all of them on this show. This made sense. They were in a match.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Like Lindsay Dorado, I can't tell you anything about that feature.
Right.
It was just, there were a lot of features on this show, and it was just too much.
But,
this was great.
This was great. And you could definitely see from between this and the CWC and the lack of these on Raw that these are certainly the most effective tool in getting your unknowns over to get them to tell their stories.
And this was only the suggestion of like every single person when the Cruiserweight division started on Raw to utilize.
But Raw, they just don't do these, or they reserve them for Brock Lesnar.
It's funny. You save these for the audience that is most familiar with these people on the network.
There was nothing more infuriating than seeing the Rich Swann video at the end of this. And just, I was flabbergasted why they did not at least air a 30-second portion of that.
They literally took
for Raw.
Daniel Bryan's explanation of Rich Swann on Talking Smack a few weeks ago and told that story in this feature. It's like, how the fuck does this not get on Raw?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Anyway.
So the feature ran, and it was the Bollywood Boys against Tony Nese and Drew Gulak. I thought 100% Nese and Gulak were winning this match after Monday night.
Oh, because you thought Tony Nese was actually getting a push?
No, I thought that they're just going to have these guys beat every logical person you think would win. After that great feature, they're going to beat the Bollywood Boys.
Well, the thing is, like, I wouldn't have thought that was too out of place of a prediction because, I mean, why else did Tony Nese beat Cedric Alexander on Monday if you weren't going to push Tony Nese? But clearly there was nothing to that.
Well, they've got an awful new storyline coming. Harv takes a running drop kick from Gulak and gets stomped down upon. Gulak then slams Harv onto the ropes. Aries says that people are selling Nese short if they say he has a 10-cent brain. It's at least twice that. Lots of one-liners and jokes from Aries.
The first thing Aries says, I guess that in his commentating role to basically spell out what the tone of his commentary was going to be, which one is herp or derp?
Yep.
I wonder if like I wonder if what they're allowed to say or anyway whatever.
They got the advantage on Harv. Then Gurv is tagged in. Herp or derp. Fuck, who comes up with this? Throws Nese into the arms of Gulak and attacks with a drop kick, forces Nese to DDT Gulak, very much a Young Bucks spot. And then there was a reverse cross off the middle rope to the floor by Harv onto Gulak. Then Nese cuts off Gurv from diving to the floor, makes the comeback, and the Bollywood Boys hit a double super kick and pin Gulak with Harv getting the fall.
I found it to be, an okay debut for the Bollywood Boys. They didn't really blow me away with anything. I didn't think either were standouts among the level of talent that you had in the CWC and in this division. So watching them in the Cruiserweight Classic, I was hoping that the two of them would have more to offer as a tag team. And I didn't feel like I feel like they didn't do enough tag team work You know what I mean? I didn't see enough of their timing together as a tag team or enough double team maneuvers or anything. So I hope to see more of that.
It's really evident that on the CWC, they really were, I'm sure it wasn't completely like taking the handcuffs off, but it very much felt like they could go out there and have
plan their own matches. You saw Burning Hammer.
Especially into the latter portion of that tournament, of course. But even early on, it just seemed like they could go out there, differentiate their styles, stand out a lot more. And here on the main roster, they are not. And you can argue that this show was built around one match to be the big match, and these were kind of just
exhibitions.
Yeah, essentially.
Right.
But nonetheless, fine match, but nothing spectacular.
No.
Dasha interviews Gulak and Nice. Gulak calls them the Bollywood bozos and says Bollywood isn't even a real place. And then Tony Nese complains that the ring is lumpy and the ropes are greasy and they should not have to work in these conditions. And those words coming out of the mouth, I said to myself, I don't think I'll be watching this show 5 weeks from now, but let's see.
What do you think this is leading to?
The two guys who believe that they are, the premier athlete, Tony Nese, who believes this is below his standard. These ring conditions.
The ropes are lumpy and the
ring was lumpy and the ropes were greasy.
So he
wouldn't they have been greasy for both?
Yes. So
Harv was the one diving off of them to the floor.
So his character is that
he's going to complain about
he deserves higher standard ropes.
He has a higher professional standard.
Like where?
Which he will work upon.
Where would he find higher standard ropes than the WWE?
I guess this is going to start the Evolve invasion. Of course. They have better ring crew.
Yeah, I didn't find this to be a very good promo. I've coming out of Gulak and Nese speaking, I didn't really know what to make of whatever they're trying to sell. I was confused, and I just didn't find it very effective for these two.
There's a parallel here to Bill Goldberg wearing the wig, the most often cited example of just misreading a character. And I think you can see that a lot with the cruiserweights. It's this idea that, we have to add dimensions to their characters, and instead ignoring what has worked with a lot of these guys already.
So what has worked for these two? What do you think a Drew Gulak should be positioned as? What type of character?
With Drew Gulak, I would have him as my solid technician, the guy that goes in there. He's your Dean Malenko of the division. Mm-hmm. Tony Nese, who got way more over to me in the Cruiserweight Classic, 100%. Doing spectacular things.
Being a powerhouse who could
that
fly.
Fosbury flop he can do that looks incredible. And instead, it's like, we have to add all these. It's not that I'm against storylines for cruiserweights.
They need to be appropriate.
The ideas they come up with, like Alicia Fox flirting with. It's like these are shitty storylines, and shitty storylines are shitty no matter what the division or who the performer is.
Yes.
Anyway, then we had a Noam Dar feature. He says people pegged him as an underdog because of his age, but he started to prove people wrong. He's going to be a supernova, and concludes he's a pretty cool guy.
He's a supernova.
Yeah. Brian Kendrick's in the locker room, and Tom Phillips interviews him and suggests that Tom bet everything on him. So don't take advice from Brian Kendrick when it comes to finances or investments. And says just like Mick Foley bet on him to build the division around on Raw. Says Rich Swann is also a gambling man who will take high risks but will crash and burn. And when those inevitable mistakes occur, Kendrick the veteran will capitalize on them. And then T.J. Perkins walks in, reminding him that he's still owed a rematch and wishes Kendrick good luck tonight.
Yeah. Kendrick, I think, is right now, at least, he seems to be the best promo of the roster. So you can see why they put the belt on him, because I feel like you could do more with him, at least up until this point. And TJ has really been in the background since he's lost the title. But I think he, too, has been really working hard at, improving his I guess, on-camera promo ability in the WWE style. So I thought he did fine here. He's showing comfort,
Yes, TJ Perkins.
He didn't.
Perkins wants to hit the reset button.
Yeah, he didn't blow in his cartridges.
Oh God, there's a promo there about him blowing an opportunity.
Oh boy.
There was a video, Grand Metalik, coming soon. Even though I could have sworn I just saw him 20 minutes ago.
His in-ring debut, I guess.
Yes. Arya Davari took on Jack Gallagher.
See, this is, I think, the debut I was most looking forward to. I mean, we knew that they had kept him off of Raw, and I was hoping, I was thinking, wow, they probably have a lot saved for this guy for a big, grand debut. It was this.
I didn't understand why we had a Noam Dar feature, and in its place, we should have had a Gallagher feature.
I think they just wanted to get equal time for everybody to get established. I think you're right, though. It would have been more effective.
Like, save Dar's feature for the week he's on. Mm-hmm. Gallagher ties up Daivari's arm at the start, and then takes the other arm and hyperextends it. And he's doing all these creative submissions, leans back for a cover, then does a headstand in the corner, keeping him away with his boot. Then he does the spot, tying up Daivari with his arms and legs, and does his usual spot where he sets it up, got the crowd sort of into it as he kicked him right in the ass, as Aries calls that ridiculous. Daivari then attacks the back and neck of Gallagher, but then follows with 2 rolling elbows, and Gallagher comes back with a headbutt, running drop kick into the corner by Gallagher, and Gallagher wins 5-31.
I was really curious to finally see how a main roster audience would take to Jack Gallagher's style, because it is so drastically different from anything that you see from anybody in the main roster that you've ever seen from the WWE main roster. But I felt like he had a great chance at getting people into it, because he's just very entertaining. And I feel like even if you know nothing about wrestling, you can watch a guy wrestle this type of match and you can get it right away. And I feel like this crowd did. I feel like this crowd was probably, like anybody who watches a Jack Gallagher match for the first time, probably didn't really know what to think of it, but then probably start to got into it. And I think if he cut a promo maybe, or maybe if they showed vignettes leading up to it, which is what I thought they were going to do. Like, imagine the great vignettes you'd have with
there's
this guy.
so many you could have done with him.
So,
for weeks.
He would have been way more over. I feel like he would have even gotten over on Raw itself. So, I thought they were going to save a big debut for him. They just did a pretty typical, kind of nothing debut. But it was fine. I feel like this guy will get over anyway, regardless, because he's just a very talented guy.
This guy, especially, as a house show performer, could be great.
And especially once you get to, like, the more smart markets, like Toronto or New York. I think they'll really cheer this guy really big. But I felt like this, to me, watching this match, it was really apparent to me how much Daniel Bryan was missed on commentary.
Oh, I thought this was the worst, with Graves and Aries as these, like, oppositional opinions on Gallagher, and to me it just took away from what was happening.
So many of those big spots, like that ball spot, like so many of these other, like, very intricate maneuvers he was doing, I felt like the commentary didn't really pick up on it nor emphasize it, whereas if you remember some of these first matches with Gallagher on the CWC, Bryan was losing his shit for every one of these things and explaining in detail what exactly is happening. And it made such a difference on that show that we didn't get here.
Then we had the Lince Dorado feature, followed by a Rich Swann feature. And this was great. This and the Bollywood Boys ones were the most significant. And actually, looking back, the Swan one was the better of the two. He says that he is a 25-year-old, that most people have not had the life he has had and what he's dealt with, losing his parents at the age of 12 and then 16, stated he went down a dark road, wrestling saved his life. This was great. This was the necessary feature that you needed from the get-go with him.
Showing this feature would have done more to build interest to this show, 205 Live, than any cruiserweight match they could have shown on Raw in the weeks leading up to the promotion of this show. Like how you didn't show this, or at least even a portion of this, or at least made any attempt to tell this guy's incredible story in the several weeks you had leading up to this show is flabbergasting. There's also a Lince Dorado video.
Yeah, I mentioned the feature. I don't have any notes.
There's not much to it. Yeah.
He does a shooting star press. Brian Kendrick, Rich Swann for the Cruiserweight title. Graves says that since Kendrick won the title, the Cruiserweight division has taken off. Early on, Swann hit a tiger bomb to Kendrick. Kendrick went for the sliced bread, and Swann avoided it, and then Kendrick got out of the way of a spinning wheel kick. Swann then hit a somersault off the barricade to Kendrick on the floor. They were working pretty hard here, including Kendrick applying the captain's hook and Swann getting to the rope, but just the first half of this crowd was checked out of this, and they really had to work hard to get this crowd. And it picked up as Kendrick went for a dragon suplex, and Swann landed on his feet and hit a high-angle belly-to-back suplex as the crowd responded to the suplex sequence. Then they're fighting on the turnbuckle, and Kendrick ends up hitting a neck breaker onto the metal bar of the turnbuckle, and Swann is selling his neck on the floor, beats the count at 9, getting in, and then there's a bridging suplex by Kendrick, putting Impact on the neck, and Swann kicks out. Then Kendrick goes for the captain's hook, and Swann is able to block. Then there's a straitjacket applied. All of the offense is built around the neck. Swann then catches him out of nowhere with this twisting Michinoku driver, and Kendrick then runs into a head kick. Swann sets up for the standing 450, but lands on the knees of Kendrick, and then he applies the captain's hook. I thought this was going to be the finish, playing off of the neck, being injured, and he has the captain's hook applied, but Swann made it to the ropes, and then they're onto the turnbuckle. Kendrick bites his wrist and hits a sliced bread. Again, Swann kicks out. Crowd was really into it at this point, and then Kendrick takes the spinning wheel kick, and Swann follows with 2 more and pins Kendrick at 13 minutes and 10 seconds. I thought it was a real credit to these two that they got this crowd so late in this taping, because they were dead for 3/4 of this show and half of this match. And I give him a lot of credit, and this was the right finish of getting the title off Kendrick, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. To kind of establish, I guess, a new, just to make some news, make some headlines coming out of this show. I agree, it was fine. I thought it was very refreshing to finally get to see these guys go out and have a hard-hitting match where they weren't restricted, or at least not as restricted as they would have been on a typical episode of Raw or on a WWE pay-per-view. I thought this was Bryan's best match since the CWC. And so much of what the magic that he displayed in the CWC in terms of psychology, in terms of kind of his inventiveness in working on the neck, using the ring cables to attack the neck. So much of that I feel like was missing in the weeks before this. So it was nice to see Bryan have a very good match here. I guess they definitely got the crowd by the end, really to a big extent. And I wonder if that was simply I would assume it was just composed of a lot of the hardcores that decided to stay behind, right?
Yeah, I think it would probably have been people that were, they got their fill of their 2 hours and ready to go.
Yeah, but I think there were probably a lot of casuals there, too, that I think they got for the first time. I mean, you wonder, they're doing these tapings at 10 o'clock. They seem dedicated to it. And I think maybe there are some suggestions of them perhaps moving it to 7 o'clock before SmackDown to do a tape delay.
Yeah, because they've now eliminated superstars. So they're not doing those tapings now prior to SmackDown. Yeah. So they have the option. They could do that.
Thing is, though, I don't think for a second would they be allowed to have a match like this right before SmackDown. You know what I mean? I feel like agents, whoever would tell them, guys, don't go all out. Don't outshine the actual stars before SmackDown even starts. So I think that if there's a silver lining to them doing the show after, it's the fact that Kendrick and Rich Swann, for instance, can go out and do a crazy 15-minute hard-hitting match like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I think there's positives and negatives to both ideas. Afterwards, Dasha interviewed Swann. The crowd is chanting, "You deserve it." And he says, "This is us right here," pointing to the title. He holds it up, thanks his mom as he points up, and says that she is here with us in spirit and dedicates to her. Just fantastic, I thought. It was good. It would have been way better if he established his story before, instead of just doing it 30 minutes before the match. You know what I mean? If throughout, imagine for a month, he's just talking about, I really want to do this for my parents, whatever. Just establish that. It's an easy to get into story, but for a lot of people, they were just learning about it 15 minutes ago. And there's going to be how many people on Raw Monday night that did not watch this, that are just going to see him with the Cruiserweight title and probably have no idea of this? I mean, it's just the reality of when you're doing a show in front of 3 million people on Monday night and you've got a WWE network with 1.4 million subscribers worldwide. Afterwards, Tom Phillips then interviews Kendrick. He says, "Heartbreaking doesn't begin to describe this. It was supposed to be the biggest night of his life, and he was robbed. He blames TJ Perkins for playing mind games earlier, and the title reign will not last long for Rich Swann.
So, yeah.
This is almost copying the Kevin Owens excuse for his loss on Monday, that he was preoccupied with Chris Jericho.
It's any heel's excuse, isn't it?
All right.
Either bad ropes or mind games.
Yeah, they're coming up with creative excuses. So after...
By the way, this was an hour. The show was an hour.
This was an hour. Yeah. So after 3 hours, what did this crowd in South Carolina get? A dark match.
Oh, they did.
They brought out a tag match, and it ended up going almost 15 minutes. They did AJ Styles and The Miz against Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler, meaning they must have taped Talking Smack as 205 Live was going on.
Right, yes.
Which does make sense.
Yes.
Like, why are you going to wait an hour and keep all these people around for an hour to do Talking Smack Live?
Yep.
You're not even going to be talking about 205 Live, it appears, on Talking Smack. So we go into Talking Smack, and Daniel Bryan is not there. Instead, the show starts with a close-up of Mike Mizanin, as he refers to himself.
This was so weird.
He talked in the third person as though Mike Mizanin and The Miz are different people.
He was trying to play his real self and not being The Miz, so it doesn't interfere with, I guess, his character.
It got so confusing for the people involved who didn't know how to refer to him as. And
he didn't even stick to it himself. He was just kind of going back and forth.
A bunch of people enjoyed Miz on this.
Oh, what?
10 seconds in, I was so annoyed with this guy. First of all, I would not have had him as the host, and Renee should have been leading this with Miz as the co-host.
Yeah.
Instead, it was Miz leading things, and my God, he did not shut up for 25 minutes on this show. And he starts off calling Bryan a terrible GM, and the fact that he stood up Renee in the audience here. And then Ziggler came on. He was the first guest, wearing an NWO T-shirt. And he brings up the fact that Maurice won the title for The Miz, and Ziggler notes that he pays women to beat him. That's what Ziggler said. Ziggler then lists off prior Intercontinental champions like Mr. Perfect, Bret Hart, and Ultimate Warrior, and stated they never needed a valet to win the title for them. And then Miz counters, bringing up, well, Randy Savage always had Elizabeth, and Ziggler concedes that point.
This was Mike Mizanin defending the character of The Miz.
I'm not going to get into the...
It was just like, The Miz, especially on Talking Smack, has been tremendous in the past. Like, The Miz, I would say, is one of the hotter properties on SmackDown right now.
This was the old get off my screen Miz.
So, for them to choose The Miz, or for The Miz for himself to choose to do this at a time in his career when he's been very hot, I feel like was... it was a bit of a mistake. I feel like he should have just played The Miz. He should have just played straight up heel, hosting the show, taking over the show for Daniel Bryan, the person that he hates a lot.
They overthought this way too much.
Instead, it was him playing an out of character Mike Mizanin, trying to interview the guy he's fucking feuding with, and Dolph Ziggler. And I'm supposed to believe that The Miz and Dolph Ziggler hate each other, but now I'm seeing them on Talking Smack, and Miz is just all smiles and kind of trying to talk to Dolph. Meanwhile, Dolph, you could tell, probably isn't comfortable doing this. He wants to give the impression that he and The Miz hate each other, so he's trying his best to actually not want to show that he doesn't want to be there. But man, it was completely incongruent, and in the end, totally just a mess.
Ziggler did a go-home promo at the end and then left. Miz then showed off his notes, which simply say, "You are awesome," and compares them to Renee's notes that he pulls up. And I paused this to read the notes, and they included, off the top of the show, "Do the Miz bit," and then follow that with trash talk.
Oh, God.
Anyway.
So this was planned. Jesus.
Miz says that him and Ziggler should be the main event on Sunday. Becky is on next and continued her promo about being a honey badger. Then we got a text message from Daniel Bryan announcing it will be a tables match on Sunday. And Becky's excited by this, and Miz notes that she just went through a table on this show. You would have lost the title tonight if it was a tables match. And at the end, Becky calls Alexa Bleeding Beauty, and she is going to be the honey badger.
Becky said, She said Bleeding Beauty because she knew Alexa liked Disney movies, and that was her play off of Sleeping Beauty.
Yep.
Which, again, like if you're going to try to pun, you could do better than that. That would not that you would get kicked off from the O. Henry pun contest.
Yeah.
If you use Bleeding Beauty.
Like, I'm going to beat you into tears, and you will be weeping beauty.
Way better. Way better, John. You should write that in.
Renee tries to stir shit up by Raw having a women's main event before TLC this weekend. Miz explains there's a lot of performers and we don't know their stories and can't understand why James Ellsworth gets all this time. Mentioning Apollo Crews, says we know nothing about him. He's jacked. Why is he jacked? Was he made fun of as a kid? Says Kurt Hawkins has never been on a Survivor Series card, and Zack Ryder was just on his first Survivor Series. Some interesting facts. And AJ Styles then joins them and says the locker room hates James Ellsworth, refers to Miz as Michael, and then Miz praises him, says he's been in the ring with AJ, and Renee says, when have you been in the ring with AJ? And they just bury Renee for not watching the show, and says that Dean will go through a lot of pain this Sunday, and takes off as a host sign-off. I was not a big fan of this episode of Talking Smack.
No, me neither.
Please come back, Brian.
Yeah, man.
Miz is a great guest. I do not need to see him as the host again.
I think it was, for me, it was just him doing the in and out of character thing that just...
I think this would have been so much better if it was Renee hosting with Miz as The Miz.
As The Miz.
I think this would have been so much better.
Yeah. Instead, like, I feel like maybe The Miz thinks that the appeal of a Talking Smack is that you can come out here and speak out of character, but that's not really the appeal. I don't think. He should know of all people. He kind of put the show on the map with his promo. Like, his promo was him staying in character, but kind of adding a real touch of reality into everything that he was saying.
And a departure from all of the Miz personality traits. Like this annoying, goofy heel. Instead, he was a serious, pissed off heel.
Yeah.
And here we were back to the Miz that just...
I wasn't a fan of this. Sorry. So overall, 3.5 hours of SmackDown WWE programming. What were your overall thoughts?
I mean, I'm going to watch 205 live, but I'm not going to guarantee I'm going to watch it every week live. It's too much to me.
It might be
and I can really see this show, this week had a big match attached to it, but I don't think that's going to be the norm for this show each week.
Yeah.
You're probably going to get some great wrestling. But I watched this show, and if I was just watching it for the first time, I can't say it's going to necessarily draw you back to watch every single week.
Yeah, I also don't think the live element makes a difference at all.
Not one bit.
Like, they could, if they just want a show to premiere on the network, they could tape this. They could put fucking NXT on right after SmackDown, and I think it would achieve the same. Doing it in front of that audience, I feel like detracts away from the quality of the matches. And part of me wonders if this whole cruiserweight experiment would have, if a lot of these guys would have gotten more over had they just debuted them as NXT guys. You know what I mean? Had them in the body of the show of NXT and just had them portrayed as NXT talent.
Or the idea of taping this and it runs on like Wednesday after NXT. I think that's a much better...
That would be the best time because
I think you're just burnt out after watching all this wrestling. And I understand it's like, well, it's the same amount of Raw. Yeah, it's the same length as Raw 24 hours after watching Raw.
And Raw fucking sucks most of the time because it's 3 hours. So why
think of Raw as a 2-hour show? How much crap you'd eliminate from that show if it was 2 hours?
Yeah, so I'm kind of depressed because I used to enjoy SmackDown a lot, and I feel like this will put a big dent into my enjoyment of SmackDown.
Let's go to the feedback thread. Mark from Vaughn writes, surprised so many fans stayed for 205 and were more engaged than expected. Swann is the right mix of character and in-ring ability. Glad the CWC format is back, and I can't wait for Metalik and Tozawa. Who would you cast as the second big cruiserweight heel with Kendrick? Seems Nice and Gulak have had the spotlight for a few weeks. I think ultimately it's Austin Aries will be the number one heel, but that's going to be some time from now until his orbital bone heals.
Cedric looks like he's getting a push.
Yeah, but
there's really nobody else.
The heel side is pretty bare.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even... Like, Brian Kendrick, to me, is not this overwhelming heel. He's like the top heel by default.
I feel like he's the best they have that's suited to the style of storytelling that they have. But yeah, as far as a top heel,
it's wide open for somebody.
It is. Sorry. Why don't you keep...
Burgundy writes, I kind of want to see Rhino and AJ. He states, quote, that was a whole loaf of bread right there. As a quote from Austin Aries. I thoroughly enjoyed 205 Live, but since I watched it late, I knew the result of the main event before I saw it, which kind of ruined the feel of the match for me. The match is still amazing, and I'm really happy for Rich Swann.
Yeah, sorry, this shit's not loading.
I'll go next to Troy. A rather entertaining episode of SmackDown, in my opinion. That opening segment with Becky and Alexa started off kind of corny, but got good midway through. I like how they were incorporating TLC elements into the matches with superstars who have stipulation matches on Sunday. I did have a few points to make that stood out tonight. Carmella as a heel is better than her face run she came in with, but I don't think it's sustained because she literally had zero noise on that entrance tonight. If James Ellsworth is now a full-time WWE superstar, can we find him a t-shirt that fits him? And if you gentlemen could answer me this question, that would be great. What's the point of having a chairs match on Sunday? A chairs match to me would indicate that it's clearly a no DQ match, so why not just make it a TLC match, as the use of a ladder or a table is clearly not off limits?
Because they want to save the actual TLC special stip for the main event. That's why. Why not make every match a TLC match? They want to...
There'd be way more.
In the end, it makes no difference. If they really want to make the TLC special, they should make all the other matches regular matches. You know what I mean? So, and like, I think a T-shirt that doesn't fit James Ellsworth is totally intentional.
It's done intentionally.
It makes him look skinny. He would look buff if he wore us extra small. That's why I get small shirts.
It's the Billy Gunn technique.
That's right. Paul from New Jersey. I thought Becky Lynch sounded atrocious tonight. I really like both of these ladies, but Alexa is a far bit superior promo. Becky will still retain on Sunday. Did Carmella forget her Staten Island accent tonight? I could spot that ear-screeching accent anywhere, and it sounded like she either forgot about it or was told to forget about it.
Rob from Saskatoon only watched 205 Live tonight. I'm cautiously optimistic after the first episode. If it's like the Cruiserweight Classic, I'll watch every week. If it's like the Cruiserweight division on Raw, then I will be very picky on it. I thought the show started off with the wrong match. The crowd was dead for the opening tag, as apparently the main event of SmackDown put them to sleep. I would have put the Gallagher match first to pick them back up. Swann winning the title was the right call. The Cruiserweight division needs to be different, and Brian Kendrick is not different. He's just a smaller main roster guy. Technically fine, but not flashy. This division needs flash, and Rich Swann can deliver way more flash than Kendrick can.
We got a Chupacabra from Delaware. Not a bad go-home edition of SmackDown. I predict 2 title changes at TLC, the women's and the tags. I am getting tired of seeing Ellsworth as part of the WWE title storyline. I thought the whole idea of the brand split was to showcase a bigger variety of superstars, but every week I see this guy taking up more and more screen time while better guys didn't even make an appearance. As for 205 Live, 3 solid matches and I enjoyed it. However, I questioned the decision of having this after SmackDown instead of before. An issue going forward may be casual fans leaving after SmackDown. I mean, it was an issue now. Cruiserweights should have jumped to SmackDown at Survivor Series since that's the audience they're performing for. Yeah. I mean, now the idea is to push them on Monday towards Tuesday.
Yes.
Isn't it?
I mean, that will be, in theory, what they'll be doing. Alexander from Portland. I've been enjoying the edge that the WWE has been using lately. Becky calling Alexa a bitch, the Lana stuff on Raw, and Dean Ambrose wanting a 6-pack of beer. Whoa.
I didn't even realize it, but like that's all the stuff that I've hated actually. I feel like the whole fucking we're bringing back attitude. That's not what made Attitude great, and to have to rely on calling people bitch or dick jokes is just cheap writing, cheap television that at 32 I really don't want to be watching, you know?
She says, I'm glad Becky went through a table. Had things turned out differently, we'd be having our first women's stairs match. I thought having Styles and Ambrose fighting in the back was a nice way to end the show. Not only does it make the rivalry look more intense, but it gives the ring crew time to set up for 205 Live. And his question is, with such a deep roster, do you see the Cruiserweights having their own tag team championships? No. Not now. Don't need more titles.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, You can't have a title match every week on 205. I mean, you're not going to have a Cruiserweight title match every week on 205 Live, though. So do you think that's the worst idea, to have their own set of tag titles?
I just think it's so...
Do they have a deep enough division?
Your company would have 4 sets of tag titles at that point.
But they're not all being defended on the same shows. At least you wouldn't think.
I don't think the Cruiserweight division is all that deep to begin with.
Yeah.
And let's talk about characters in that division that are over.
Yep.
At most, we can talk about Rich Swann.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
You need more over talent. You're right. Okay, we got a Chris from Melbourne who says, for SmackDown, another good show this week for the Blue brand. Becky and Alexa seems only right to be a form of extreme match, considering how the Raw division was inside Hell in a Cell back in October. Say what you will about Miz and Dolph, but their ladder match could steal the show. Slater and Rhino taking on the Wyatt family was unexpected, and can't see what the plan is for American Alpha. 205 Live, a great premiere show for the Cruiserweights. It was good to see the crowd stick around after a 2-hour SmackDown. Shame that they weren't vocal until the championship match. Talking smack. Okay, let's just go to questions. Should the brand exclusive pay-per-views be shorter in length? Perhaps a 1-hour pre-show and a 3-hour pay-per-view.
That's what they are.
Yeah. What does he mean? Is there any?
They're not going to be any shorter than that.
Should they be in your house length? Which was what, 2 hours?
2 hours. They're not going to be, so
yeah,
I don't know why we need to...
They seem to be in the business of over-delivering content. They just want to promote more hours, I think. They want to go for Netflix, you know what I mean? And Netflix is an overabundance of content to drive up the value of your $12.99 a month. So I don't see them shortening anything. If anything, they'll probably add more time to the network.
Let's go to the last few ones here. They're all international feedbackers. James from Wales. Do you think that the addition of Aries to 205 Live is to eventually get him into the ring as a viable heel with a fundamentally different character to Kendrick for the division, or just a way to bridge NXT and 205 Live together, as they're going to be sharing the Raw exclusive cruiserweights? Yeah, I definitely took that from Tuesday. Aries being part of this division, which is a big positive for the division.
Who else do you see from NXT being part of it?
Cruiserweight-wise, I don't think you're going to see much more other than what you've got at the moment. I mean, there aren't...
Roderick Strong, Atami.
I think in time you could see some of those guys migrate over to the division, but I see for the foreseeable future them being more exclusive to NXT. But it's always an option you have. If you need something, you can always grab someone from there.
If you're an NXT guy, I would think that you'd be hoping that you wouldn't be cast as a cruiserweight. Like if Finn Balor came in, let's say a year from now, instead of being there, there's a chance he might not have been a main roster guy. He'd be kind of segregated here, which I think a lot of talent would wish they wouldn't be. We go to Brian from Ireland. While I think Becky was better this week, I have to agree with Wai. There's just something annoying about her promos. Straight fire is a terrible catchphrase, and during her matches, it just leads to a half-assed running forearm. Quick question, why is there the general assumption that a Raw guy is going to win the Rumble?
Is
there a general assumption that a Raw guy is going to win?
Yeah, I don't think so. It's going to be whoever they feel makes the most sense. They can be... I mean, there's arguments you could have towards a Goldberg, a Lesnar, a Jericho winning the Rumble, and conversely...
Those are Raw guys.
Yeah, those are Raw guys. I'm saying that on the SmackDown side, I think there's less of a clear picture of what your top matches are going to be for the SmackDown side, because you could go either way. Doesn't really matter which one wins. Let's go to the last one here. Aditya from India. Love SmackDown Live tonight. It was a good show. Talking Smack was great. Miz should be a permanent host for the show. Well, then we will have less time to watch every week. Who do you guys see the next program for The Miz after TLC, as he's likely retaining the title? And who will the Wyatts feud with for the tag titles next? Finally, a gimmick match for SmackDown Live Women's Division. 100% will be better than Sasha and Charlotte's Hell in a Cell. And is there any chance will Shane McMahon cost Dean Ambrose the title and turn heel? Okay, these are a lot of questions. Holy Christ.
Will Shane cost Dean the title and turn heel? No.
I don't see that happening on Sunday. Miz after TLC.
Okay.
Apollo Crews. And they're going to fight over the right for Apollo Crews to explain why he's so jacked. That's what he'll be a detective.
Oh, wow.
He's going to try and figure out why were you so jacked as a kid.
Man, I really hope to see. I mean, I haven't seen Apollo Crews in a long time, but now that Tozawa and Crews are on the same show, I would love to see those two have some interaction. And that's the other thing about these cruiserweights. I feel like a lot of them would be very well served on the main roster as part of tag teams with a lot of your floundering heavyweights. I think cruiserweights and heavyweights naturally make for great tag teams. And somebody like Crews and Tozawa, who are in real life best friends, I think I would have loved to see. I would love to see the two of them as a tag.
You have to wonder as well, with the elimination of superstars and 205 Live taking its place, what do you do with the swaggers of the world? And quite honestly, you're Apollo Crews. Yeah. Like these guys are not being featured on SmackDown, so you either have to come up with plans for them, or there's no role for them because you've hired all these cruiserweights that are now going to be taking up that hour. I mean, at least on Raw, for your Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel types, there's main event.
Yeah.
So there. That is the end of our show, our review of all 3.5 hours of WWE programming on Tuesday night, where you and I have watched over 6 hours of WWE in 2 nights.
Just on Monday and Tuesday, and this is not even a pay-per-view week.
Yeah, that's next week.
Jesus. Imagine, for the Rumble, how much we'll have to watch.
I don't want to think of it. It's daunting.
The thing is, I actually enjoyed Survivor Series. That week of Survivor Series, I enjoyed everything I watched. I enjoyed the
all
takeover.
3 nights had something.
4 nights. All 4 nights.
Right, SmackDown.
Yeah, and, man, I don't know. Anyway, they've been on a good roll, but I feel like SmackDown just kind of took it down a notch.
All right. That will bring this show to a close. I want to let everyone know that in addition to the Law and Review of Raw, which are up, we also have the full 22-minute interview I did with Christian up at youtube.com/live audio wrestling, chatting about his retirement, the concussion he suffered, UFC 205, Conor McGregor, lots of stuff with Christian. You can also grab that interview on the website, and we will be back. We've got What's Next coming up on Thursday. The MMA Report will be up later this week with Bellator President Scott Coker. Bauer and Pollock tentatively scheduled for Friday. And then Sunday night on the Law, midnight Eastern, we will be coming at you after TLC. So that is all for us, and we will speak with you next time here at Live Audio Wrestling.